Hi, this is Mike from BandLab, and in this video we're going to make an old school East Coast hip-hop beat in BandLab's free online DAW. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I begin by setting the project tempo to 100 beats per minute, and the project key to F minor. Early East Coast hip-hop tracks were often based around drum machine grooves, so I'm going to start by composing a drum pattern using drums, drum pads, Prince kit. I start with snares on the 2nd and 4th beat, then add kicks on the 1st, 8th, 10th, and 11th 16th notes. For hi-hats, I add open hats on the snares, and closed hats on the 1st, 8th, and 10th 16th notes. I duplicate this bar out onto the 2nd bar. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, then drag them over. I'd like to vary up the kicks the second time around, so I add another kick to the 2nd 8th note. I also want to add some hip-hop flavor with some claps, and I add these on the 15th and 16th 16th notes in the 1st bar, and the 12th, 14th, 15th, and 16th notes in the 2nd bar. I want to vary up things at the end of every 4 bars, so I duplicate the 2-bar groove and delete the claps on the final bar, adding a high and mid tom roll instead. I then add a cymbal crash to mark the start of a 4-bar sequence. To give myself some headroom to add other elements, I turn this track down to 6 dB. For the bass line, I want to create a call and response effect, and I'm going to use 2 sounds to achieve this. First is the basses, synth bass, acid bass instrument. And the second is keyboards, synth pads, retro Juno pad instrument. I begin with the acid bass, programming a simple 2-bar sequence that hits 2 notes. I duplicate the 2-bar MIDI clip to give me a 4-bar groove. I then duplicate the acid bass MIDI onto the retro Juno pad track, but a bar later. I highlight the MIDI notes and pitch them up an octave with the +12 button. I then double-click on the track after the existing MIDI clip to create a new MIDI clip, which I shorten using the handle at the bottom right-hand corner. I add a variation on the bass riff that switches up the bass line. I then double-click the area before the first MIDI clip, and I highlight all 3 MIDI clips to select merge regions and merge them all into a single MIDI clip. I turn both instrument tracks down to -6 dB to balance them with the beat. Although simple, this beat and bass line is the real core of the track, but I definitely want some extra elements that will not only help to keep things interesting for the listener, but also help me make a compelling arrangement. Early hip-hop was often influenced by 80s synth-based funk music, so I open up BandLab's sample library and enter synth funk into the text search field. I select the synth funk pack, then drag Synth Funk 105 E-flat minor FX1 4 bars onto the project. This sparkly old-school synth effects does a great job of adding interest to the sound without overwhelming it, and overriding the most important element, the drum beat. I want the volume level of this track to be loud and more consistent, so I open up the effects panel and add Dynamics BL1176. To balance this track with the other elements, I turn it down to -6 dB. I also like Synthfunk 115 F Shakers 4 bars, so I drag this onto the project too and turn it down to 6 dB. I'd also like some 80s muted funk guitar. I click the Browse button to bring up the text search field, and this time I enter 80s. I select the 80s Supreme pack and drag Mini 80s MISC 02 onto the project, again using the loop handle to drag out 4 bars in length. This has the feel that I'm after, but it sounds a bit too busy with the rest of the elements. I'll deal with that at the arrangement stage. I turn this down to -6 dB. There's another loop I really like in this pack, Mini 80s Beat 01, which I drag into the project, again looping it out and turning it down to -6 dB. I need one last element, a sound effect I can use to transition between sections in the arrangement. I search for white noise in the sample library and drag Batter Medium White Noise Filter up onto the project. I position this so that the audio ends at the end of the 4-bar sequence. I turn this track down to -6 dB to balance it too. For the arrangement, I begin with an 8-bar intro of just drums. Here I've deleted the tops, and I'll switch to the version with the tops for more intense, chorus-style sections. Speaking of which, after the white noise effects plays, the track enters its first chorus-style section, where the tops and the bass are introduced. After 8 bars, the synth funk effects is added too. After that, we have a verse-style section where the tops and the bass are stripped out again, but the percussion loop is added to vary up the rhythm section. After 4 bars, the funky muted guitar is added too. At the end of this section, the white noise effects leads back into the chorus. After this chorus, we have a pseudo bridge where the synth funk effects keeps playing over the stripped back beats. After 8 bars of this, we're going to go into the second half of the verse style section we had before. Once more, we'll use the white noise effect to build up to a final chorus. You can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!